Knoxville Game Design, January 2018. Version control software and repositories. With Levi, Dylan, Jake, and Jacob.
Welcome everyone to the January 2018 Knoxville Game Design Podcast. Currently this week, we have on the line Dylan Wolf from Lenoir City.
Hi. And
we have Jake Gillenwater. And Jake, are you in Kingsport? Okay. Jake says hi. And I'm Levi Smith in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And we're just game developers here in the East Tennessee area. We get together once a month and just talk about things going on in the games industry, what we've been working on, and just showing off what we're doing. So for a change this month, we're going to start out with some viewer mail that we actually got. And let me pull that up. Okay, so we have Bryson that wrote in to Knoxville Game Design, and he says, "Hello, my name is Bryson, and I'm looking for guidance in the game development industry. I have all the programs, Unreal Engine, all the way to 3D Studio Max 2018. I know the basics, but I wanted to get more involved, more in depth, so I'm reaching out for help." So I read this, and I'm thinking it really depends on what Bryson wants to do here. If he just wants to go out and like be an indie, do this for a hobby, I don't think you really need to have like connections. Like, I don't consider myself in the industry. I'm just kind of do this as a hobbyist. If he does want to actually do this for a career, I know that Epic Games is in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is pretty close to us. And I know there's some game companies out in Austin, Texas. Otherwise, you're probably looking at the West Coast if you want to get into it. As far as getting started, 3D Studio Max is a big leap to take if you've never really did game design before. I know most people usually start out in Game Maker or something like that, just making simple 2D games. I know I started out in QBasic. I think Dylan also started out with QBasic.
Yeah, that was what I started out with too.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I think you can still run QBasic through DOSBox if you get the QBasic EXE. You can run it through there. Other software that I've used when I started out was Allegro, which you can use C. I don't think you can do C++, but they used to have a compiler called DJGPP, I think. It ran on Windows and plugged in with Allegro really well. And I know other people who also started out with Allegro. Aside from that, there's also SDL, where you can write simple games like that. But I don't know too much about, let me share out my screen again, about Unreal Engine. I've done one game in Unreal Engine a couple of years ago. It was like a simple breakout game, just so I could learn how to do Unreal. And I actually have a post on my website for Unreal Engine First Impressions. Now, I do know Unreal Engine does have this thing called Blueprints, which is kind of like a no-code type thing. You like make these different boxes and you drag the values, connect the boxes with the different inputs and things like that. So that's a good way to get started if you've never really done much game programming before and you do want to use Unreal Engine. Going back to Epic Games, I mean, they are the creators of the Unreal Engine. So if you are looking to get a job with Epic, then I would definitely highly recommend being familiar with Unreal Engine. And it is also free. I think you have to download the Epic Games installer, and then you can just run it through that. Also want to mention that on the knoxgamedesign.org website, we have a page just on tutorials where we've posted a collection. Dylan has quite a few tutorials on here for getting started. I have like a game development overview. This is like a talk that I did to a high school class, like computing class. just on the overview of game development, some of the tools that are available to use as far as game engines and graphics and doing sound effects and things like that. And also Mike Neal, he has quite a few Unity tutorials that he wrote a few years ago, or he actually did videos on these a while back. So I definitely recommend checking out those as well. But as far as getting into the industry, like I was saying, I don't consider myself a part of the industry. I don't really have many connections or anything. I'm not sure exactly what is required if you are like applying for a major company or studio. I know a lot of places are putting less of an emphasis like on a bachelor's degree, and just if you do have a good portfolio of things that you've created, have a place, have like a website. If it's just a simple free WordPress site, have a site where you have all the games that you've developed, everything that you've done and completed, and have a place where you can show that off. As far as just getting started, Dylan and I were talking about this a little bit before. I mean, we're here to help. If you have any questions or anything, we can't take that first step for you. What I've always said is kind of like learning to play baseball. You got to pick up the bat yourself and take a couple swings, and we can provide help or pointers after that. But yeah, definitely stay in touch, Bryson. If you have any other questions, hopefully you keep up with our video and podcast and keeping up with the latest that's going on in Knoxville game design. He didn't actually say if he was in East Tennessee. I'm assuming he is. But yeah, so hopefully that helps. Let's see here. So I guess next we'll go ahead and do show and tell. Dylan, did you have anything you wanted to show off this month?
No, like I was talking about earlier, I haven't been doing a ton of game development recently. Just kind of like on and off, messing with a few things, but nothing really productive.
I'm going to show off your website because I know you did do some work, or not your website, but your itch.io.
Itch.io?
Yeah. So I got it pulled up already right here. And you did a nice new background with all your characters from all your games. And I think you put up some new games that you didn't have up here before.
Yeah, I put up some stuff that I've used for demos, like the 4-player Infinite Runner game.
Yeah, Knox Runner. I never knew what the name of it was. But
that was just the project name. Like I didn't give it a real name.
I think that's a good name.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just basically a good demo that someone can pick up and play for like 30 seconds. But I had never put it out, and it was one of these things where we haven't done a ton of promos because they're just not like a ton of things that
like gatherings and things like that.
Yeah, like to do things like that.
Yeah, because we did the one at the Sun Sphere, and then we did like Open Streets Knoxville, which was near like Central Street in Knoxville. They closed the whole thing off, and at the Tech Co we were pretty close, so people could come in, play games and things like that. Then they had the what was it, the Emory Place Block Party?
I think so.
Yeah.
I remember we did too, and it was just generally one of those things like, well, there's no reason for me to keep like holding on to this. Like this is the thing we show off. Like, nah, just put it out there. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a cool 4-player game. I mean, definitely good for parties. Oh, it is 4 players, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're playing at the same time, because you had it like in 4 separate screens. You're like using 4 separate views.
Yeah, like it's actually split screen and all that. But kind of the motivation behind just putting this stuff out there. I rebuilt everything for WebGL because a lot of the builds were things that I'd done for Let 'em Dare, and so go all the way back to the Unity plugin. A lot of it was just like most of my games, my target's been an app store like Google Play, and that was fine, but I'm not out there marketing my stuff heavily, and so what I ended up with is a lot of these kind of like half-finished games on itch.io that are now no longer playable because the Unity plugin's gone, and then all my finished games were on Google Play, getting hit or miss traffic because it's an app store and it's platform specific. I'm just like, well, I just need to start kind of targeting itch.io because if I'm coming at this as a hobbyist and I'm not wanting to do a bunch of marketing, that's just a good place to put them. That opens everything up. So
yeah, it's a great service. I mean, you can upload as many games as you want to up there. I think they got to be under a certain, like under 2 gig, which I never do hit that limit or anything. It's hard to get traffic on itch.io unless you promote yourself. I mean, don't expect to throw up a game on itch.io and get a lot of traffic, but I think it's a great service.
Yeah, I'm not like, oh yeah, this is just a new avenue for marketing games. It's more like, this is a good, it doesn't cost me anything and it's open, so this is probably what I should be targeting.
Exactly. Have you ever used Butler?
I have not, but
it's a really good tool. If you like want to make, I'm going to go ahead and show this. I wasn't going to show it, but Butler comes with, if you download the Itch app, which it puts like a little icon like this, Itch on your desktop, and I'm going to show this. I wasn't going to do this month, but if you download Butler, so I got it installed in my tools directory, projects, or no, LD Smith, tools, if I can find it, and I think it's in here, Playmaker. Oh no, I can't find it. Playmaker on. I know I have it in one of my projects. So let's go.
Wait, there's a butler.bat.
What? Did you see it? Yeah, there you go.
Butler.bat.
Thanks, Dylan. So I'm going to open this bat file, and yeah, basically all this calls is it actually gets installed in your app data roaming itch bin folder. So from there, let me go to projects and just pick Ancient Adventure here. So I have 2 scripts. So let me talk about the first script first. And I'm going to edit this. So this is a build all script. So what this does is I have a directory set up, and this is just like a bat file, like old school DOS. I have a directory for the project, which is currently a directory. Then I have like the name of the game on itch, which I don't think I'm using right here. I don't use that right now. Then I have the exe that I want to create, and then the location of Unity. So what I do is I call Unity, and there's a way to compile by command line in Unity. And I have it where it builds the Linux like player, the Linux exe, the Mac OS exe, and the Windows exe. And that puts all 3 of those builds into the build directory. And after I have those created, then I go and call this Butler push all, and it calls that Butler script right here in the tools directory. So it's just going to say Butler push, then that build for Windows, Mac, and Linux is going to push it up to my itch.io project name / then the name of the project. So it's a really easy way. If I make a new build of a game, I can just like double click build all. It builds all of the 3 platforms, Mac, Linux, and Windows. Then I do Butler push all. So it takes those 3, pushes them up to itch.io, and I'm done. I don't have to upload any files or anything like that. So
that seems pretty neat. Like it almost makes me wish there's probably some way to do like a build server for Unity where you just, like Team City or something, where you just push something out to your source control, it picks it up, it rebuilds it, and if it succeeds, it pushes up to Butler. I did not know. I thought there was a way to do like the command line build, but I never looked into it. So that's pretty neat.
It took me a while to figure out how to do that, and like searching through like the documentation and everything. And the one thing I will warn about, there's like different switches for building 64-bit or 32-bit. Obviously 32-bit is pretty much compatible with everything, but I think 64-bit is like what most everybody is running on. So that's a decision. I know I think Itch.io has an option to do, or maybe that's Game Jolt. But you just got to watch out for the architecture that you're building there.
Yeah. I think one of the things I wish Unity was better at was like, I don't know that you can specify like your compiler directives from the command line. That would be nice because you could, put like platform specific content in a little bit easier.
That would be really nice. I'm going to show off one of my games for the Xbox, and I just wish there was a way to turn off Xbox and just build for like Windows and Linux and everything else. I don't hear you, Dylan. Oh, you're muted.
I'm muted too early. Yeah, that's the exact sort of thing I wish you could do a little bit more easily without having to dig down into options.
Yeah. So definitely check out Dylan's Itch.io. I know you posted some, like you're saying, all your Google Play games. I was checking out your Envoy games, kind of like Castlevania 2. So
yeah.
Pretty cool. And then you also have Retro Future. And I didn't realize you have like 50 levels on this game.
Yeah, that was the build that I did for Google Play, where I was like, I'll just put this out. And at first I was like, I could do this ad supported, and then realized like, I don't know if they're like, you can't put in a business name for or you can't tie your AdMob account to like a business account or something like that. And I was just like, I'll just put it up for free. So
yeah, it feels like it's a fully polished, done game. And I noticed the one thing that really impressed me about this game is you can play it through the web, and it will also like save your progress. And,
yeah.
And Dylan, I think you're going to talk about how you actually did this, save games and things like this at a future Knoxville game design meeting, maybe in March or sometime.
I'll have to put something a little more together on that. But yeah, basically what I did was, instead of using player prefs, I'm actually writing a file, because pretty much every Unity player... Actually, I don't remember. I may have had to rewrite that for the web. But on Google, like on Android, you can actually get, app-specific storage and, like serialize a file to JSON.
Yeah, well, I'll be very interested about hearing more about that at a future meeting. But yeah, very cool there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Jake here. Jake, did you have anything you wanted to show off this month?
Not really. I'm mostly just kind of checking in, see what y'all have been cooking up.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. I know that you had a game, so you're jakegillenwater.me, right? I know you're on our directory. You had a game that you were telling us about last time. If you don't mind me showing it off.
Go ahead.
Let's see here. Jake Gillenwater. It was like a little UFO game. I don't have it installed right here. Abduction game. And I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I can play right here through the web. Click. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to hear you. I wish there was a way. Can I mute?
I'm sorry, is this better?
Okay, I hear you now. Yeah, I just had to mute this tab.
Like way far back and I forgot.
Yeah, so this was a pretty cool little game here. I mean, so you can click through, move the spaceship, stop moving above a person to abduct them, Return abductees to the mothership. Hitting mine disposable hooks will cause you to lose abductees and damage your ship. I'm going to play on easy. Capture as many before time runs out. Humans needed 3. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. You move your spaceship around in multiple directions. You dodge the... I'm running into mines. So it looks like you automatically... You just hover over the person and you abduct them. Now, I don't have to actually pull them back to the mothership, it doesn't look like.
You do have to pull them back to the mothership.
Oh, okay.
So, up in the top left-hand corner,
Mm-hmm.
think for a moment, it should have a little tag that says in transit.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Try that again. So I see captured 05. Oh, I see that up there in transit right there. Oh yeah, so I just like hit him right there. You just touched the mothership and that registers.
Mm-hmm.
This is really good. So what did you use to make this again?
That's written in Phaser and TypeScript.
Phaser and TypeScript. This is very cool.
I think now we actually have a sound effect that like beeps whenever you return something to the mothership. I don't know if you have sound on or not.
No, I had to turn it off because I can't hear you and the game at the same time.
Yeah. The music is absurdly loud.
Yeah. That's the problem I have with my own games. I need to add like a volume control in a lot of my games. But yeah, this is very cool. I like the animation of the little guys, how they're walking. That looks like the walk cycle looks like it's really well done.
I appreciate you saying that, but I can't take full credit. I pretty much just copied like out of a book, almost verbatim. Like.
Oh, that's fine.
What to use.
So basically, we're racing against time, right? And if can I get shot like any number of times? Does that just reduce the clock?
That only reduces the clock.
Oh, okay. So if I get
screen's a little misleading right now. It still says that it takes damage to your ship, and I think we got rid of that because it just became too difficult.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing on like the hard difficulty, it just becomes almost impossible.
Yeah. Well, that's very cool. Yeah, so this month I was going to show off the Dream Build Play game that I did. It's Turn Back the Clocks 4. This started out as my... I think I need to mute this. This started out as my 1-hour game jam game. So it's kind of like Plinko. I don't remember if I've showed this off before at Knoxville Game Design, but you basically got like these balls that you shoot down, and the objective is to light up all these little clocks here. You have 30 balls, and you have some special balls like red balls and yellow balls, which give a additional multiplier. So the red balls are worth twice as much, and the yellow balls are worth 5 times as much. So this is a new feature that I added for the game. If you land the ball in the little slot right here, these spinning wheels will pop up, and one wheel is for the ball type, and the other is for the multiplier, so you can win additional balls that way. And another new feature that I added are these mines right here. So if you ricochet one of your balls off a clock and it hits a mine, then the ball just explodes, and it's no longer available to hit anything else in the game. All of this is done through instancing these clock objects. I laid these out actually in a text file, all of the levels. I currently have 6 levels in the game. That's it. I had a high score table, but I took it out for the Xbox build. I got to figure out how to go back and do that. But yeah, submitted this for the Dream Build Play 2017. I think I talked about that before, but it was an old game development competition years ago for Xbox Live Indie Games, and they brought it back in 2017. There's like 4 or 5 different categories. I think the grand prize is like $50,000. Different categories for like VR games, console games, PC games, and there's even like a category for a devlog. So if you documented your game development process, which I've done here, you can submit your devlog in the devlog category. And so I have things on here. It's like, oh, here's how you get the mapping of the buttons to Unity, how to deploy it using your retail Xbox right here. And I also have videos. I did most of all of the development live streamed, so you can go back and click these. You can see how I did the ball explosion in Blender using the Cell Fracture plugin. I think the only requirement was your post had to be like 200 or 300 words, and you had to have like 6 posts over a month or so. So that was the game that I did for that. I wanted to mention, since Joe Miller isn't here, haven't seen Joe in a while, but I did hear from him over Christmas, and he's doing well. He's just been busy with real life and everything, but I know me and Joe always did this GM48. It was this weekend. I don't even know what one tool, many uses. I guess that's the theme. I didn't do it this time. I just kind of needed a break from game dev, so... but it comes around every 3 or 4 months, so that's out there. Also wanted to mention I made kind of like a field trip to our friends in Lexington, Kentucky at Run Jump Dev. I've always wanted to go visit them because they're just like straight up I-75. It's about a 3-hour drive, but it's not a bad drive up there. They had a meeting. I was off on vacation that week. I was like, I'm going to finally go up and attend a Run Jump Dev meeting. They didn't have a speaker when I was there. It was kind of just like a show off. But the nice thing about this group, it reminded me a lot of the Knoxville game design group, how we were a few years ago. I think they had about 10 or 15 people show up. They have people with different technical abilities. I know one guy was working on a Pico 8 game in the back. I met John Meister here. He's kind of like our Chaos Soft Games. He has a little indie game studio called Super Soul. I think they created a game for Ludum Dare 28, which I think I remember playing. And I think they ported that or one of their other games over to, I want to say they have it on Steam. But I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, really cool people. They aren't as big into Ludum Dare as we are. They've done it before, but I think the last time they did it was, I don't know, about a year ago. Ludum Dare 37. But they're big into doing global game jam, which we've never done here in Knoxville. So I'll just say, if anybody's out looking for a global game jam site, I would definitely recommend Lexington, Kentucky. I talked to this guy, Tim Knowlton, for quite a bit, showed off some of the games that I'd done. And, yeah, pretty cool group. They have a gaming conference. I think they're tied in to EKU, which is Eastern Kentucky University. And the EKU has a fairly active game development program up there. So I think they get a lot of traffic and collaborate with them quite a bit as well. So pretty cool group up there in Kentucky. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the main topic that I was going to present this month. I actually have slides here. So this is going to be version control software and source code repositories, which probably isn't very exciting for game developers, but I think it is very important. I think this is something that all game, or not just computing, intro to computing courses should teach. But I mean, I didn't know when I was doing my undergrad, I didn't really use version control until I was a senior. So, but I think it is very important. Something that a lot of people may not do, and I'm sure there are experts on version control systems out there. So my first point on my first slide is I don't claim to be an expert, but I know enough to get around. I know enough to do the basics. So this is part of what you may hear as SCM. I'd never heard of this acronym before, but when I was looking up some of the different tools, a lot of them refer to themselves as SCM, or Software Configuration Management. I think that's actually a stage in the IEEE software development lifecycle when I was looking it up on Wikipedia. Back when I was in college, I mean, we had the waterfall model, the beam spiral model, and did my undergrad in CS back at around 2000, late 1990s. And it's like extreme programming was just coming on the scene at that time, the agile and all that. So this may be a new development cycle here, which I don't know much about. But yeah, you can read more about that on the Wikipedia page about software configuration management. But I kind of broke this talk into two different portions. One is version control systems, and that's like the tool that you actually use for managing your source code. There's two different kind of like paradigms. One is distributed, and that's sort of like where everyone has a copy of the code. And then there's centralized, which is kind of like the older style, where you have one repository, it's sitting on a server somewhere, and you check out the code and you commit it back in, which you can also do in distributed. But centralized was just focused on that way of doing things. And I've seen it also called client server for the centralized. So Wikipedia actually has a pretty good page for the different types of tools, software configuration management tools, and the model that each uses and whether they're free and the license and things like that. And then the second part is the software code repository. I guess this could be more considered as like the software code repository host, where you actually host the repository where your repository resides, and there's different sites out there that can do that for you. Or you can also do your own as well. But the ones out on the web, they're either public or private. Then you have ones that are paid or free. And as I mentioned, you can actually host your own repository. You can like put it like on a remote file share or just have it on your local system. Here's some of the benefits. This is just my own thinking, the things that I think are beneficial for version control systems. You can see the differences whenever you check in and commit and check in your code. You can see the differences between the last commit and the next commit. So you can see exactly what's changed in the code. It gives you the ability to roll back to a previous version. So if you make a mistake or you clobber one of your files, you can always roll back to a previous commit, or you can even just like roll back a certain file. So if you mess up a file, delete it or something, just roll back to that previous version of that file. You can also see when all the files were checked in, when changes were made. And also, it's a good way, if you're working collaboratively, to manage code for multiple developers. I typically work by myself, but I still think software code repositories are good, even if you're a single solo developer out there. As I put here, it's better than sharing by Dropbox or a Google Drive folder, because if you overwrite something on Dropbox, then it's gone forever. But if you're actually using code repository, then you can always roll back to a previous stable version. I know some people, and this is what I used to do a long time ago. Every time I had a stable version, I would just back up that directory, zip it up, put it somewhere. But using a code repository is a little bit more elegant than that. Saves you some disk space, and you have everything in one place. You don't have to worry about renaming directories and having an ugly sock drawer of directories or anything like that. And a lot of the code repositories have analysis tools, so you can see who's been working on what files, and you can also have a lot of them provide a web view of the source code. Here's some of the disadvantages of using code repositories. One is all developers must have the tool on their system to check out the code. Typically that isn't a problem. I would recommend using a tool that is free or everyone has access to. I know I've been in situations where like people use a paid tool and I can't check out their code because I don't have a license to their version control software tool. Some developers are still resistant to using version control. It's unfortunate, but some people are set in their ways and they just don't want to use it. So you can't, like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So some people are just like that. And there is also additional time investment for setting up a code repository at the front end, but I think it's well worth having one for that small time investment. So here's like the workflow that I typically go through just as a solo developer. I create a new repository on the server for that project. Then I clone that repository to my local workstation. I start working on my game, code, whatever. And once I got it to a stable point, I commit those changes. Now, there can be some debate on how often you push the changes back. I always push after I do a commit, just so that the repository on the server is always in sync with what I have. But it is possible for multiple people to be editing code and committing changes and then push those at a later date. Now, I think I'll get into it on a later slide. But when you do that, you have to, if there are conflicts, like if me and Dylan are working on the same file and we both commit it, then we check it in, then we have to do what they call merging, is to resolve those differences in the code. And that's where my expertise ends. I really don't do much with merging. I've had to do it when I'm like working on a laptop or two different systems and I've been working on the same file. I have to merge it and it's just a nightmare. I don't enjoy that part of version control software.
A lot of newer, like Mercurial and Git, have pretty good merge functions. Like they can just handle it automatically because what they're storing is the differences in each commit, and so they can combine them together. There are still some times where you have to go through like the 3 panels of, here's one version, here's the other version, here's the result. So, but it's not necessarily as bad as it sounds for general use, unless you've just gone like 6 months without merging 2 branches.
Yeah, because I think if I actually used software control with other people, like on a team, I'd probably be more familiar with like doing the merge function, like you're saying. And yeah, so it sounds like they've came a long way with merging. Now, the one thing I do know is like every time, I think I made a note about this later, but you always have to like do a commit after you merge together. Because I know one time I did a merge and then I'm like, why aren't the branches together now? They should all be the same. And you got to do one more commit after you merge those together. At least I think that's the way it was in Mercurial. So here are some of the systems. These are some of the ones that I used a long time ago. SCCS, Source Code Control System and Concurrent Version System, CVS. I think these come by default on Unix, which is probably why I'm familiar with those. But typically you just check in and check out code. I think it actually puts a lock on the code once you check it out. So that's one advantage to using one of the more modern systems where each person can work on the same files at the same time and then merge them together after. I have used the Microsoft version control system. Now, this is one Visual Source Save. This is one of the ones where you have to have a license for every person using it. And if you don't have a license, you can't check out the code. So I've never really been a fan of Visual Source Save. They have moved on now to Team Foundation Server. And I've used this just a little bit. It does integrate well with Visual Studio, where you can just like commit within the IDE itself. But it also supports non-Microsoft repositories. I think there's something called Anchor or something you can get as a plugin, and you can commit to a Subversion or a Git repository through Team Foundation Server.
I don't know about that. I know like Visual Studio has a way you can integrate source control, and Microsoft is now supporting Git a lot more because Team Foundation Server has its issues.
Oh, okay. I think that's what I'm thinking. I think you're right. So Visual Studio, you can commit to a Git or okay.
Basically, there's just there's actually like a source. You can create a source control plugin, I guess, for Visual Studio is the way it works. So, if you're using Mercurial, there's a Visual HG. If you're using Subversion, like you said, there's Ankh SVN. You can get plugins for other systems to work more or less like you would with TFS or Git.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I know I was setting up a Subversion one time, a Subversion repository, and yeah, I think that's what it was. I was trying to commit through Visual Studio. Then I got that Ankh plugin that let me commit the Visual Studio project to Subversion. So I'll need to fix this slide right here before I post it. Subversion's one that I've used quite a bit. It's been around since 2000, created by CollabNet. It's now part of the standard Apache Foundation project. And you click right there if you want to find out more about it. It has your standard command line interface. One tool that I used a few years ago is called Tortoise, which is pretty nice. It integrates into your operating system, or Windows at least. I don't know if they have it for other operating systems. But when I used it in the earlier versions, it would actually put like a little icon over the icon of each file. So it'd have like a little green plus icon next to your file if it's a new file that has been added. If it's deleted, I think it had a red X or something. It is like blue if it's been updated, and something else if it needed to be committed or no, if it's been updated, I think it's blue or something like that. So it's pretty nice, but I noticed in later versions, I think due to changes in Windows, the icons weren't always dynamically updated, so you always had to go in and like right click and sync your icons, which wasn't very fun. So I don't use Tortoise that much anymore. It does have a repo browser in Subversion, which is pretty nice. And one difference between Subversion and some of the other distributed software control systems is that each commit is a sequential number. As you'll see, it's a little bit different in some of the other ones. Next one I've used quite a bit is called Mercurial. One thing I like about Mercurial, it's supported by Atlassian Source Tree, which I think is a great free tool. You can download it for free. The reason I found out about Mercurial is because if you go to Bitbucket, which I'll talk about in a little bit, it's the default tool that or the default repository they use is in Mercurial. And there's also a command line. And I haven't used Tortoise support in Mercurial, but apparently it's there. So I got a couple of screenshots showing like commit history for one of my projects and committing a file to Mercurial. And I'll do a demo here in a little bit of how to do all this. And the next one, which has been pretty popular lately, is Git, G-I-T, developed by Linus Torvalds. He's pretty popular and created the Linux operating system. So Git was created in 2005. There's a whole story about why he created Git as an alternative to everything else. But you can download it at Git, and there's that SCM acronym right there. It has a command line interface, but if you download the Windows build for Git, there's also an open source graphical tool you can use. It's also supported by Atlassian Source Tree. One difference I've noticed is your changes have to be staged before you commit, which is a little bit different than Subversion. And the commit identifiers are actually these weird cryptic strings, which is a little bit different than Subversion, which uses the sequential numbers. And you can either like use a local repository or push to a server, as I mentioned earlier. And here's a link right here if you want to know exactly what the differences are with SVN. Something else important to version control systems is ignore files. So whenever you commit a directory, sometimes there's some folders you want to leave out. If you're doing a Unity game, you don't want to check in your /library and /temp, because that's like something every Unity project gets. So you don't want to check that in with your source code. And also, if you have a build directory in your Unity project, you don't want to check in the exes. I'll talk about this in a minute, but some repository hosts, they have a limit on the size of the files that you can check in. So you don't want to check in like an exe. I've got in trouble like checking in an AVI file accidentally for like an attract mode for one of my games, and I had so much fun trying to get the stupid AVI file out of source code control because it like blew away the limits on Bitbucket. So typically there's either like a git ignore file in git or an ignore.txt in Mercurial where you can put in the names of the directories or individual files that you don't want to check into source code control. There's also typically a global ignore file. So let's say you have, for every game, you have a /build or /build directory for all your executables. You can go into the global ignore file, add that, and then for every folder that you check into source code, or for every project you check into source code control, it ignores that build directory. And you can also use typical regular expressions for the ignore file. Here's some other topics. Dylan and I, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, about merging. Some other topics I'm not too familiar with, but forking. I typically don't do forks, but I think this is like if you want to create a totally new project and that's totally separate from your current project, you can fork it off. Some other things for controlling branches: rebasing, archiving, and branching. I don't know too much about them. I think it's for like going to previous versions in your project and rolling back and things like that. And also blame, if you want to find out exactly who made what change to what line of code, there's a blame command typically that you can run to figure out who edited the source file. And I'm going to go over a few of the source code repository hosts out there. The one that I used a long time ago is SourceForge, and let me bring this up. It's an old one for open source projects, and it supports Subversion. So I have two games, my old Legend of Tux game that I developed in 2009, 2010. So yeah, it provides a nice interface. I think you can go in here and look at the code and click on that, and you can see, like back in 2010, when I check these files in, you can click on a file, and it's got nice highlighting and everything. And for all the comments and keywords and variable names and things like that. And also line numbers, which is pretty helpful. And also they have a place where you can actually upload the builds as well for your different projects. So the next one is Bitbucket, and this one's pretty popular. For one reason, you can host free private repositories. I don't know of any other sites that do free private repositories. You do have a limit of 2 gigabytes in file size, and it supports both Mercurial and Git. So here's one of my projects, my Leaderboard game that I did for Leaderboard 40 in source code control. So you can click on source, you can view all my Unity files. So you can go like to assets and scripts, and then you can go to, say, title, and there's like the code for the title menu, which is pretty simple right there, but it has the same things, the keyword highlighting and comment highlight, or comment different colors and things like that. You can also go through and look at the different commits that you've made. This one doesn't have very many because I did it for a weekend game jam, but you can see the commit numbers right here. Those are pretty cryptic, but every time you commit, you got to give a message, check-in message, so that's like right there. Then if you have branches, which, like I said earlier, I don't deal much with branches, aside from if I'm like working on a different laptop or something, sometimes it creates 2 different branches and I have to merge those back together, which is, yeah, always fun. And finally, GitHub. So GitHub is nice. It's pretty popular these days. They have public repositories, so that means your source code is open for everyone to see for free. They also have an option for private repositories, but that's $7 a month. It's pretty nice with some of the charts and everything that it has for when you check in. I'll bring it up over here. So this is my Leaderboard example project in GitHub right here. You can see the commits that I've made right here. So this is all a Git repository. I think you can actually click on this, and you can see the actual changes. I removed this test file. Let's check this one, rework Leaderboard code. Yeah, so you can see here, like all these lines in green have been added. If lines that have been deleted are in red, highlighted in red. So it does cool things like that. The insights are pretty nice. I think, where is it? You can see how many people have came and looked at your project right here, and how many times people have cloned your repository, referring sites, things like that, unique visitors. I think there's also a chart. Yeah, so you can see here for this Leaderboard example, I did a lot of commits back in May. Kind of sat idle for a long time, then did a little bit more work in November and recently, and see my total commits. I'm assuming if there were other people that had been working on this, you'd also see their profiles right here as well. Let's go back and look at my profile. And I think this is pretty cool here. So you can see like all the work that I've been doing. Now, this isn't like a perfect representation of how much work a person has done. Like I could do 10 commits in a day just on one file. Then it'll like show up in dark green on this contribution graph right here. But if I only like work on one file and I spend all day working on it and only do one commit, then it's only going to show up as a light green box right there. But yeah, it has a pretty good history showing each year all the projects that I've worked on and going all the way back to 2011 right there. They also have a wiki and bug tracking. I don't use the bug tracking, but I think one of the projects that I follow the Ludum Dare Starship project. I don't know if I can bring that. It might be under following right here. No, followers, repositories. But yeah, I can't find that right now. Profile. But it does have a nice interface. Maybe I'm just search for it right here. I thought it came up on my main page. Maybe if I just go to github.com. Yeah, there it is. So here's Ludum Dare. So this is a good example project to look at for things that have been, for a project where multiple people have been contributing. You can see all the people who've been working on it, all their commits. And the reason I wanted to show this is because of the issue tracking, which since I'm typically the solo developer on my project, but for like a project like this where multiple people are using it and you have a lot of different users, they can go in and create these issues with the software. Then you can add tags, you can add a bug tag or different things like that. And then I think you can like add comments, and I think you can also check these off one at a time as they're done, so you can know which issues are outstanding, things like that. I don't know if anybody uses the wiki much. One thing that so they have a wiki page right here with an explanation of the code and everything. Typically what I do, which is pretty nice, I have a README file. Let me check my Twitter OAuth. So if you put a readme.md file in your main Git repository, then it will pop up right here, and I have some explanations of the code that I've developed and how I use it and things like that. And it also uses this markdown format. So that's a somewhat popular format for GitHub repositories. And I also wanted to mention that Git does not equal GitHub. GitHub is a site that hosts Git repositories. There's a lot of people that use Git and GitHub, at least people I know that use those two terms interchangeably. It's like, oh, I'm going to go out and set up a GitHub site. It's like, no, you might set up a site that's hosting a Git repository, but you're not setting up GitHub. But I do know, I think there is like a Git Labs or something project where you can actually set up a site similar to GitHub yourself. So that's it for the slides. I was going to do a quick demo, at least try to do a demo. So I'm going to go to my profile and I'm going to click on the plus. I'm going to do a new repository. I'm going to call this Knox Game Design Test and add a description test for Knox Game Design. And as you can see here, I can only make it public. If I want to make it private, since we're on GitHub, you got to pay additional for that. And I'm not going to do a README, but that's all you do. I mean, you click Create Repository. And Bitbucket is very similar to this. So right here, it gives you the URL for your repository. And they always end with this .git extension. So I'm going to copy this. Then I'm going to open a window. Let's go back to this one. LD Smith, Knoxville Game Design. So I'm going to do a new folder. Source Code Test. Or I should probably name it the same thing that I named this one. So I'll call this Knox Game Design Test. Double click that. And so I'm going to run the graphical tool, Git GUI. So this is the one that comes with Git when you download Git for Windows. I'm sure it's very similar for Linux and Mac. So what I want to do is clone an existing repository. So in source location, I'm going to take that .git file, http github, grad, Knox Game Design Test, put it in the source location. Then target directory, I'm going to click Browse, and then go down to E, LD Smith, Knox Game Design Test. So I want to clone it here. So I'm going to click Clone. Oh no. Yeah, so it has to be one that... I always get confused here. So whenever you clone, it can't be to an existing directory. So let's get rid of this. So now let's clone that. So when I click clone, it created that folder right here. And you get this messages here, working, please wait. Oh no, that's strange. See console output for details. Remote ref hit. Well, that's strange. Let's try that one more time. Maybe it wasn't ready. So let's go back one more time. Close this. Close. Git GUI. Yeah, so we want to clone. Paste this there. Browse. E. LD Smith. Knox Game Design. I'm just going to call this like test. Folder. Oh, let's go back. Knox Game Design. Select. Clone. Target.
I think you want to add a that on the end there.
Okay.
That should work.
Yeah, I did go through this earlier and it worked. I'm thinking maybe everything hadn't been initialized yet or something. Nope. Doesn't like it.
Maybe. Can you use the SSH version, maybe?
Yeah. So let's do this by command line, which I actually already have right here.
Well, you should be able to just plug in the SSH URL.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take another approach to this to see if this works. So I got my source tree right here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to click the plus button. And I'm going to clone a repository. I'm going to paste in. Is there an extra space in here or anything? Okay, no. So browse. So I'm going to go LD Smith, Knox Game Design. Select. So let's put this in test. Clone. Yeah, so it works in source tree. Not sure why it didn't work in the Git GUI. Okay, so now we have our repository cloned on our local system. So I'm going to go into test. Here's the Git folder. So it's hidden. So if I go into test right here, our repository, I'm not going to see it if I do a directory. You got to do a directory A:\H. Then you can see that .git. And this is just a bunch of files that you shouldn't ever have to deal with. The one that you may have to deal with is config, but you really shouldn't have to touch this. Only time I've ever had to touch this before is when I change the location of the repository on the server. Then you might have to do it. But typically you don't need to touch anything in .git. If you're doing Mercurial, it has something very similar, but it's .hg. And I think Subversion is .svn. So typically you don't touch any of those files. So I'm going to go in. Let me do this by web interface or by graphical interface first. So I'm going to go new, text document. I'm going to create like a hello.txt. Double click that. Hello world. So this would be like your game code or source files or your Unity project or something like that. So once you do that, it's going to pop up usually pretty quickly. And I'm using the Atlassian source tree. So it says unstaged files. Now if I go, let's see if I can bring this up. I want to try one more time. Git GUI. So now that I've cloned it locally, I should be able to open this repository in Git GUI. So I'm going to browse to LD Smith projects. No, Knox Game Design test. So since it has this Git in here, it's actually a Git project. So I'm going to open. That's strange. There it is. So in Git GUI, it looks kind of the same. You got unstaged files here, unstaged files here. So I want to click on hello text, stage all. So that's going to add the file. And here's where you have the option to automatically push to your remote repository. It's strange because it doesn't have the actual server right there. But here's where you enter the commit message. So I'm just going to say first check in. I want to see if I can leave that check down there. See if it automatically pushes. So this is going to push this hello.txt file up to my GitHub repository. So if I go back and click on my Knox Game Design test, you can see now it's been checked in 15 seconds ago, first check-in. And hello text, so I can click on that. Hello world. Now I can, let's say, go back to my file viewer. Hello. Then edit this. And say, this is an update. Save that to hello text. I want to see if I can do something different. Well, do I want to? I'm going to see if I can use the command line to do this. I'm going to go back. So whenever you install Git, it adds the Git command line tool. So I want to git add, then do -a. So that should add all the files in the current directory. So that just committed, or no, that hasn't committed it. That just told the repository that that's a file that I changed. So you can run git status. So that shows me now modified hello text. So if I want to commit this, I do git commit. So this is going to bring up a VI editor. So if you don't know VI, there's tutorials out there, but old school Unix editor. So I'm going to say updated the code, press escape ZZ. So that just made a commit. So what happens if I do git status here? Nothing to commit. So it's been committed, it just hasn't been pushed yet. So I think I can do a git push. Do I have to put the URL? Is it smart enough to know the URL? Sometimes you actually have to tell it the URL or to push to. But yeah, it looks like it pushed it up to GitHub. So if I go back to Knox Game Design Test, you can see now I have 2 commits. First check-in, then updated the code. So you can see here, I'm not sure why it saw this as a deletion. Maybe it's because of the new line, but there's this is an update. It's probably because I used Notepad++ and it used a different end line or something. Oh, is that Jacob?
Yes, sorry I'm late.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, we're just wrapping up a source code repository demo here. So yeah. So yeah, we got the new code checked in and using the command line interface. So yeah, a lot of documentation out there on how to use all that.
All right.
So Jacob, you been working on any game development lately?
Yeah, kind of. I've been messing around with source code from Humble Bundles from Humble Bundle source code game things.
Oh, okay. Is that a new thing that they have out there where they put out source code for their games?
I think it's been around for a little while.
Oh, okay. Did you have anything you wanted to show off, or?
Not right now.
We played your game last time. I'm going to bring it up right now. The one that you did for Ludum Dare.
Yeah.
We can take a look at it again if you want to talk about it.
We can do that.
Okay, give me 1 second. Ludum Dare. If I can find it here. May have to just download it from the website. Let's go to Knox Game Design. And see here, Ludum Dare entries, and it was called Boom.
Yes.
And so we got the zip file right here. Okay. And going to download and extract. Extract all. Extract. And let me share up my screen again. And click there, boom.exe. Okay.
So I actually made that game from like a 3D dungeon crawler tutorial thing.
Okay.
And I figured out a way to make it like play like Doom kinda. I couldn't figure out how to get the bullets to move like where you were looking, so I just made it to where it shot out 8 bullets at once in 8 different directions.
Oh, okay. Do you remember what button to shoot? Is it Z or... Oh, there it goes. X?
X.
Yeah, so are these ghosts that are like chasing me right here?
Yeah. You have to collect souls to gain health, and your health and ammo are in the same pool.
Oh, okay.
So if you run out of ammo, you die.
And I think like the overall objective is to get to the exit, right?
Yeah, to get to the exit of every level. I couldn't figure out how to fix its hitbox, so you kind of have to like run into it a little bit. I'll probably like fix the game at a later point and re-release it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like I think we got pretty far when we were showing this off last time. So there's knights on the second level. So are the knights like good guys or are they bad guys too?
They're bad guys. They'll like if they collide with you, they'll stop you from moving and kill you fairly quickly.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They have a lot more health, and I figured out there was a glitch. I figured out there was a glitch so that bullets would get caught on the ghosts, and I figured out how to fix that glitch with the knights.
Oh, okay.
To make them much harder. There's secrets in the level too if you can find them.
This reminds me of Wolfenstein with the knights and secrets and everything.
Yeah, I made the game to be based off of Doom because that's how the controls for Doom and Wolfenstein worked.
Yeah. This takes me back. This reminds me of a lot of the games that I played when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought I saw something over this way. Was there a pickup?
Yeah, there's a secret on that wall. I forget which tile it is, but you have to like kind of use trial and error to get through there.
Oh, yeah, I thought I saw some yellow or like a key or something over here.
It was like when the knights die, if you figure out a way to kill them, they drop a thing called a dreaded soul, which does more damage.
Oh,
No, does more damage. It gives you more ammo than a normal soul. For that one, it's like you have to run into one of the... Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Then there's like these fire guys on this level.
Yeah, they're like inverted versions of the other knights that shoot fire.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this
Knights.
is a pretty cool little maze here. I think we got like to the third or fourth level. I think we got last time. I can't remember if we got past this one. So the pickups... Are the little blue orbs right there? Does that just give you ammo, or does it make you?
It gives you ammo and health, since your ammo and health are basically in the same pool.
Okay, I got you.
So those are the lowest tier.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. The second night area. The knights didn't used to be how difficult they are now because of the bullet glitch that I fixed for them, so bullets didn't get caught on them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm still I'm playing the version that's on the Ludum Dare site. So if you have a new version of it, I probably don't.
No, this is the new version.
Oh, this is. Oh,
this is the one of the glitch fixes.
Okay.
I was trying to make a edited version of this where, like, you had an actual HUD and that you actually shot bullets that weren't part of your health.
Yeah.
And I might change that back if I can actually get the game to work how I want it to work.
Yeah, I think a HUD would help a lot, just to know how much health I have. And
yeah.
I don't think I got this far last time. I don't remember this long corridor.
Yeah, this one is just filled with ghosts that still have the glitch.
Okay.
They didn't fix it for them.
This has a lot of levels in it.
I think it has around 8 or 10 levels.
I like how each level has a different theme to it. Like you got the fire guys and the fire level, and so and you did all
the weird fight level.
You did all this with GameMaker, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I've never done the 3D stuff with GameMaker before.
Yeah. When you figure it out, you can make a lot of things if you know how to work it.
Yeah, there was actually a GM48 this weekend. I didn't do it myself, but I know that's one that Joe Miller and we've done that one in the past.
Cool.
GameMaker competition. Yeah, this one may be too hard for me. There's a lot of fire guys in this level.
Yeah, I probably need to do some fixes with how game plays if I get back to it, which I probably will some point.
Yeah. I think this is
This game, the game does have a kind of story. You essentially just kind of play as the Grim Reaper, trying to fight a giant mouth, basically.
Oh, okay.
It's
I think I
pulls
remember
another dimension.
Yeah, I remember the story from your description here. You're a middle class life of a soul collector. Your health and ammo are one and the same. Yeah, I think this is a very good game right here. I'm impressed.
Yeah. I'll probably do bug fixes later on.
And
Like figure out how to make it to where you can look with the mouse.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, the one thing that I noticed is I had to keep like pressing left and right to turn. So if it was like where I could just hold the button down or use the mouse, that would make it a little bit better.
I had another idea for like a first-person shooter tank type game.
What's that?
You'd use the WSD keys to move the bottom part, and the arrow keys to move the top part. Like the top part was the turret, and like you turn that around to shoot, and the bottom part was like the WSD part was the thing that actually turned the treads so you could move around and shoot other tanks.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, I've never seen that control scheme before, but I think that would work pretty well. Have one set of keys for turning the turret, then another keys for moving around. Now, one question we had last time we played this, we noticed the screen was really wide for this game.
Yeah.
Is that by default or was that by design?
That's how long the rooms actually are, because in Game Maker, the rooms is how big the screen actually is, unless you turn on full screen mode, which I don't actually have in the game.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now, because we were wondering why it's so wide.
So you can tell how wide the first room is because that's how wide the actual screen is.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll go around one more time. Dylan, did you have anything else you wanted to show off or talk about this month?
No.
Hey, Jake, thanks for stopping in. I guess, do you have anything else you... All right. And Jacob, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about this month? Or show off?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Let me switch back to me.
When my other games are done, I'll probably show them, but they're not done at the moment, so...
You can find Dylan at dylanwolf.com, Dylan Wolf on Twitter, and on Itch.io. Jacob, did you have a Itch.io account yet?
I have a GameJoel account that is Big Old Tom, because that's the only name I could think of that was interesting.
Is that Big Old Tom, like T-O-M?
Yeah, T-O-M.
G-O-M. Oh, okay.
No, T-O-M.
T-O-M. Oh, okay. See if I can pull that up right here real quick. Yeah, so check out Jacob's games on GameJolt.
They're not very good because they were just 2 3D games I made that aren't really finished, I guess.
Yeah,
just kind of experiments.
Yeah, I know you've been working on a lot of games. Yeah, over the years.
I'll try to post more onto there if I can.
Okay, and you can find me, my personal Twitter is GaTechGrad, G-A-Tech-Grad. If you just want to see my games and stuff, find me on Twitter at LeviDSmith. LeviDSmith.com is my website. And my Itch.io is also GA-Tech-Grad. So next month, we don't currently have a topic. So we may just do like a short, condensed podcast where maybe me and anyone that shows up just talks about game news for a little bit. So I wouldn't expect a lengthy meeting or anything. Maybe the month after that, Dylan may talk to us about save games sometime after. I know we do have MomoCon coming up. I think it's in May or sometime.
Yeah, it's actually I've got it written down here because I made a list of. I think MomoCon is May 24th through the 27th.
Dylan, are you planning on submitting any talks to MomoCon?
I've submitted, but I don't think they've done any selection.
Oh, okay. I guess submission period is closed now, isn't it?
I can't remember. Let me double check, because I think there was a cutoff. I think they cut off some, but not all.
Yeah, I know Code Stock here in Knoxville, Tennessee, they recently cut off theirs in early January. I think it's just a few days ago. Yeah, so...
Actually, MomoCon submissions are available through February 28th, according to their site.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I may look into that. But I'm definitely planning on going to MomoCon maybe both days this year. I'm going to look at their indie game. What is it? On the convention floor. I think Joe I know Joe Miller went last year. I think it's like $400. I don't know. That'd be very tempting to do. I'm not big on like having to like stand beside a booth for like 2 days. But
yeah, it's their indie game showcase and their contests. Those are clearly for like professional level. That's why it's $400. So
yeah,
if that sounds pricey, that's.
Yeah, it is a lot, but there's a lot of good exposure down there. But yeah, for someone like me, but if we wanted to go in as like Knoxville game design or something, we can talk about that later. But
yeah,
but I definitely want to go this year just because I know they do a lot of. I'm big into E-League or the esports and everything, and that's like one of the major sites now is MomoCon. So
yeah, like they've been pursuing indie games, like you said, esports. Just branching out where it makes sense.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, there's always something going on. We may like back off on like I'm getting a little bit burnt out on game development. I'm have a couple of things I want to work on, but yeah, the next few months, we'll try to keep on doing the podcast, even though it may be in like a reduced, more brief format. But remember, everyone out there, in late April, we got Ludum Dare 41, so we're planning on doing a get-together for that, and then probably in May, then we'll do another show-off meeting. So anyway, that's it for January 2018, Knoxville Game Design. Appreciate everyone out there listening and watching on YouTube. I don't think I promote it very often, but we do have a mailing list. You got to go on the website. You can always find us on knoxgamedesign.org, and you can always find out about the latest meetings, the games we developed, and things like that on the Knox Game Design website. So until next time, thanks everyone for watching.